Happy early holidays to everybody, whether it's Hanukkah or Christmas or winter holidays. We're glad you're here. There's so much hope in the world, and one way to spread it around is through stories. And we have 5 very special storytellers tonight. I think I keep saying 4, but we added another special one. So we've got 5 tonight. And I think everyone's going to have a very special tale to tell. Now, we will be recording on YouTube, and you'll be able to go back and invite your friends to view. I've gotten permission from all the tellers that this is good to do. So thank you all very, very much. And thank you for being here. If you loved a story, which I know you will love every single story, please feel free to tell that person through the chat box. And that's just one great way for them to get a little acclimation of the power of story. So thank you guys very much. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our very first teller of the night. Elizabeth Beeman is just a beautiful young lady inside and out. She is recently retired from the public library. And so I know she knows Eric very well through his stories because she works with the kids, especially the young kids. My gosh, I saw her magic working with the puppets that she was using and the stories and the songs that she sings to these kids. She's just mesmerizing. But she also tells stories to families through her guild up in the Fort Worth, Dallas area. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you all Elizabeth Beeman.
Hey. Thank you, Sue. I'm so glad to be here tonight. This story is dedicated to the memory of my mother. 6 little ducks that I once knew, fat, one skinny, one spare, one's 2, but the one little duck with a feather on her back, she led the others with a quack, quack, quack. Quack, 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 quack. She led the others with a quack, 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 quack. I was the oldest of 6 children, and I have many stories of the things that my mother brought into our home that were bird types. But a particular one that I have that I want to tell about tonight is when I was 14 years old. When I was 10, we moved from town to the country, and we called it the woods. We moved into the woods, and my mom and dad built a home, and the home had big plate glass windows from about waist high all the way up, and they were vaulted, and we never had curtains. And then we had another newfangled thing in the 60s called fluorescent lighting, and the fluorescent lighting was hidden behind a shelf like this. So they were beautiful wood floors, beautiful home, and all 6 of us, we were growing there. Well, when I was 14, my mom was reading the Houston Chronicle. You remember that, most of you are old enough to remember a newspaper. And she was reading it, and we were all just hanging out. It was the summer. And all of a sudden she said, "Oh!" And we said, "What, Mom, what?" Except baby Jeff, he was only 2. But all of us wanted to know, what was Mommy excited about? She said, "Canaries, $1 each, limit 6. And it's in Sharpstown. It's in Houston. Let's get in the station wagon and go and get canaries." It was a field trip. So we all piled into the station wagon. Little Jeff, 2 years old, stood so he would be protected by Mommy on the front bench seat. So if anything happened, she could hold him from falling. And the rest of us piled in. The windows were down, no such thing as air conditioning back then. And our hair just blew in the wind as we drove 55 miles to Houston, to Sharpstown, to get our canaries. When we got to the pet shop, we were so excited. We got to pick our own canary. I picked an orange and yellow one. My brothers picked orange and black. all the way yellow and white. Oh, they were beautiful. We got them in a little paper box, cardboard box. And then of course, Mommy had to buy, after that $6, she had to buy the cage. She had to buy the food. And then she had to buy the 45 that was going to teach our canaries how to sing. So a 45, for anybody too young, is a record. And so we got back in the car, and little baby Jeff, he didn't get to hold his canary, but the rest of us got to hold our canaries, and we could hear them, jumping in there. We were so excited. Drove 55 miles back. We got to the house. Now, remember, my mom read that while Daddy was at work. So he didn't even know about that. So when we got there, Mommy set up the big cage, and we put all our 6 canaries in there, all in the same cage, and we fed them. And then we put on the 45, and now I cannot sing like a canary, but this canary was accompanied by an orchestra. And so I'll just show you what it sort of sounded like. La, 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 la. And we played that full volume, and those canaries just looked. And so we thought, well, tomorrow they'll get used to where we are. So every morning we got up after Daddy went to work, we got up and we played the record. La, 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 la. 2 weeks. It was beautiful music, but guess what? The canaries never sang. So Mommy had a great idea after 2 weeks. She said, let's open the cage door and let the canaries out in the house, and they'll be happy and they'll sing. We thought that was a great idea. So we did. We opened the door, we let the canaries out, and they flew up to that new fluorescent lighting shelf. And we looked at them, all 6 of us, and they all pooped. Then they flew across the dining room, down into the family room where those 3 walls of windows were and glass shelves, and they landed there all together. And we thought, they're going to sing now, they're going to sing. La, 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 la. Oh no, they pooped. Back and forth they flew, and they really were like little poop machines. And my daddy came home for lunch. My daddy was a rice farmer, and so he came home every day for lunch. And when he walked in, he heard that beautiful music, la, 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 la. And he saw us all running around like crazy, little kids. And then he saw these canaries in his new house. And he said, Eleanor, now my mommy's name was Ellie, but if things weren't happy, it was Eleanor. Eleanor, what is going on? Oh, honey, Robert, the birds weren't happy in the cage. So we thought if we let them out that they would start to sing. He said, kids, go get the crab nets. Now, we only got crab a couple of times a year, but a crab net is this round contraption with a net on it and a long handle. Well, that sounded like fun. So we ran out to the shed, and we had to dig for it because it was only twice a year we got to use those. And we dug around and we found him, and then we got to catch him. Woo, that was fun. And put him back in the cage, and then they began to pout. Well, I would like to tell you that in the next few weeks that those canaries learned how to sing, but they did not. So one day my mom said, we live in the woods. It's a beautiful day. Let's let the canaries out. We'll just open the cage and y'all can catch your canary, and we'll let them out into the woods. And then they'll be happy, and maybe we'll just have, the woods will be filled with a song of canaries. Well, in the Houston area, even though we were out, that was not natural habitat for the canaries. And so we did let them out, and we saw them for about 30 minutes. And then we never saw them again. And we never heard, except on the 45, we never heard those little songsters. But, natural, I don't know. But The cool thing was 40 years later, I was telling my best friend this story, and she said, you know, last winter I was in Alpine close to Big Bend, and I saw wild canaries. And I went, oh, do you think my canaries got that far? And, you know, I would like to hope that it did. 6 little ducks that I once knew, fat one's skinny, one's fair, one's two. But the one little duck, me, with a feather on her back, she led the others with a quack, 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 quack. She led the others with a quack, 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 quack. Thank you.
Love that story. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I think I'll be looking at ducks a whole nother way from now on, just wondering. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much. And again, you'll probably be hearing a lot from this young lady coming up with our Tejas festival. She'll be doing a workshop for us with puppets. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I decided to put our featured storyteller second because I'm so scared. You know, we storytellers, we know how important time is, but somehow time just disappears when we're telling our stories. And I wanted to make sure Eric definitely had time to tell his story. Now, those of you who don't know who I'm talking about, we do have a friend to all of us, whether you know it or not. Eric Kimmel has joined us all the way from Portland, Oregon. Thank goodness for those silver linings with this pandemic. We now know Zoom has brought the world together, literally. And Eric is the one with this huge universal planet behind him. And that says an awful lot about what Eric has done through his books and through his storytelling, and honestly through your music also. I was my very first year as being a story librarian at Coker Elementary School. Someone had said, you know, you can't bring anybody in because you just don't have the money. But somehow I got to talk to a publishing company that, thank God, had Eric. And they said, well, Eric will come no matter what. You know, basically, what can you pay Eric? And he'll be there. And oh my gosh, Eric was there, and Eric was magical. We brought Eric as often as we could to our school district, loved him. And many of you know, he wrote Herschel and the Hanukkah Goblins, which is a Caldecott honor book. He's written many other books, over 100, mainly adaptations of folktales, which has gotten all of our student storytellers involved in loving stories because of the freshness of his adaptations. He's also brought his Jewish traditions to many of his books too. I'm sure Eric will probably want to talk about that. I hate to keep bragging, but I love you, Eric. You're amazing.
Going to.
Yeah. You brought the world to us through your stories. And truly, they're folktales from around the world. A lot of them are Texan because he loves Texas very, very much. There is something about us, he said, that's just precious. But without further ado, Eric said he has a brand new story to share with us. So how about giving him a big round of applause? Yay, Eric.
Thank you all. Oh, Sue, that was quite an introduction. But I can be bribed with barbecue. You give me good barbecue, I'll go anywhere. Can you all hear me? I'm unmuted. I'll start with the story. Okay, I'm coming through. Well, I was thinking about what I do tonight, and we're going to be in the holidays. And when it comes to telling stories, I like scary stories. So I was going to do one of my favorites, which is a story from Joseph Jacobs' great collection of English fairy tales, Teeny Tiny, which is my go-to story. And I was practicing it this afternoon, and then I thought, let me fiddle around with it a little bit. And a new story came out because we're in the holiday season. Everybody looks to me to come up with a Hanukkah story. And I started writing them because when I was a kid, there weren't any good ones. They're kind of sweet, but not that interesting. And I always said to myself, my grandma could tell a better story, but all my grandma's stories were scary stories. And they usually involve boys or girls who didn't listen to grandma and came to a bad end. And her stories never ended with, and they lived happily ever after. Oh no, it was two endings. And they found them in the woods in the spring after the snow melted. Like, ooh. But the other one was, and they were never seen again. So I thought I'd fool around with Joseph Jacobs' Teeny Tiny and graft it on to some of my grandma's storytelling. And if I tell this right, all of you will jump at the end. So brace yourselves, okay? I'm going to cheat a little bit because I've got the text on. It was like a little too new for me to even learn, but I think I can fake it. Okay, so to truly enjoy this story, which is called Ichka Pichka, you have to learn a few Yiddish words. Now, Yiddish is a language spoken by Jewish people living in Eastern Europe. And when I was a kid growing up, I was bilingual. I spoke it with my grandma because grandma did not like the sound of English. And although she spoke 5 other languages, she never bothered to learn English. She said, it sounds like dogs barking, which I don't know, was interesting with somebody coming from another culture. What do we sound like? Anyway, here are a few words you need to know. A bubba is an old lady, a grandma. A hintel is a little dog, a puppy. A bintel is a bundle, tiny package. That could be a puppy's name. Ichkapichka means teeny tiny, eensy weensy. Latkes, of course, are potato pancakes, traditional Hanukkah food, eaten with applesauce or sour cream. Matzah meal is a flour made from finely ground matzah crackers, usually left over from Passover. And schmaltz, which you rarely see anymore because it's so unhealthy, is rendered goose and chicken fat, usually stored in a jar in the refrigerator. And I remember grandma scooping it out, smearing it on a piece of rye bread and eating it. It's instant cholesterol like death. So now that you know the words, let's have the story. Once upon a time, there was an Ichka-Pichka Bubba who lived with her Ichka-Pichka Bintel, in an Ichka-Pichka house with an Ichka-Pichka door and an Ichka-Pichka yard and an Ichka-Pichka gate. Now, one day the Ichka-Pichka Bubba said to her Ichka-Pichka Bintel, Hanukkah is coming. I need to go to the Ichka-Pichka market and buy some Ichka-Pichka groceries so I can make the Ichka-Pichka latkes that we both enjoy. So first she put on her Ichka-Pichka hat, and then her Ichka-Pichka coat, and then her Ichka-Pichka gloves. She tucked her Ichka-Pichka basket over her Ichka-Pichka arm, and then she was ready to go. She gave her Ichka-Pichka Bintel an Ichka-Pichka pat on his Ichka-Pichka head and told him to watch the Ichka-Pichka house while she was gone. Then she opened the Ichka-Pichka door, walked through the Ichka-Pichka yard, and out the Ichka-Pichka gate. And she began to walk down the Ichka-Pichka road, leading to the Ichka-Pichka market, taking Ichka-Pichka steps. Now, it so happened that the Ichka-Pichka road led right through the middle of an Ichka-Pichka graveyard. Ooh. The Itchka Pitchka Bubba was an itchka bitchka bit afraid to walk through that Itchka Pitchka graveyard all by her Itchka Pitchka self. But she told herself to be an Itchka Pitchka bit brave, and she continued taking Itchka Pitchka steps. Now, the Itchka Pitchka Bubba was nearly through that Itchka Pitchka graveyard when she looked, and there, lying on top of one of those Itchka Pitchka graves, was an Itchka Pitchka bone. The Itchka Pitchka Bubba picked up the Itchka Pitchka bone and said to her Itchka Pitchka self, "This Itchka Pitchka bone will make a perfect Itchka Pitchka Hanukkah present for my Itchka Pitchka Hintel Bintel." So the Itchka Pitchka Bubba picked up the Itchka Pitchka bone and put it inside her Itchka Pitchka basket. Then she continued on her Itchka Pitchka way. Well, she soon arrived at the Itchka Pitchka market. She bought some Itchka Pitchka potatoes and some Itchka Pitchka onions and some Itchka Pitchka matzah meal and some Itchka Pitchka eggs and some Itchka Pitchka sour cream and some Itchka Pitchka applesauce and an Itchka Pitchka, I can't even say it, an Itchka Pitchka jar of schmaltz. Everything she needed to make Itchka Pitchka latkes for a lovely Itchka Pitchka Hanukkah dinner. She put all her Itchka Pitchka groceries in her Itchka Pitchka basket and started on her Itchka Pitchka way home. Now, she arrived just as the Itchka Pitchka sun was setting in the Itchka Pitchka sky. First, she opened the Itchka Pitchka gate, walked through the Itchka Pitchka yard, opened the Itchka Pitchka door. She set her Itchka Pitchka basket down on the Itchka Pitchka table. She gave her Itchka Pitchka Hintel Bintel and Itchka Pitchka pat on his Itchka Pitchka head. And she put away the Itchka Pitchka potatoes and the Itchka Pitchka onions and the Itchka Pitchka matzah meal and the Itchka Pitchka eggs and the Itchka Pitchka sour cream and the Itchka Pitchka applesauce and the Itchka Pitchka jar of schmaltz. By this time, the Itchka Pitchka Bubba began to feel an Itchka Pitchka bit. Oh, sleepy. The Itchka Pitchka Bubba yawned. She said, "I think I'll go upstairs to my Itchka Pitchka bedroom and have an Itchka Pitchka nap." But first, she took the Itchka Pitchka bone and locked it in the Itchka Pitchka cupboard so it would be a surprise for her Itchka Pitchka Hintel Bintel at Hanukkah time. Once the Itchka Pitchka groceries were put away, the Itchka Pitchka Bubba and her Itchka Pitchka Hintel Bintel climbed the stairs to her Itchka Pitchka bedroom. She lay down on her Itchka Pitchka bed, pulled the Itchka Pitchka covers up to her Itchka Pitchka chin, closed her Itchka Pitchka eyes, and in an Itchka Pitchka minute, she was fast asleep. But she didn't sleep long when she heard an itchka-pitchka voice. And the voice said, "Give me back my bone." Ooh. The itchka-pitchka-bubba was an itchka-bitchka-bit scared. So she pulled the itchka-pitchka covers up to her itchka-pitchka nose, closed her itchka-pitchka eyes, and lay very still. And in an itchka-pitchka minute, she was fast asleep. But she didn't sleep long when she heard the voice again. And this time the voice was neither itchka nor pitchka. And the voice said, "Give me back my bone." Oh! The itchka-pitchka-bubba was more than an itchka-bitchka-bit scared. She pulled the itchka-pitchka covers over her itchka-pitchka head, closed her itchka-pitchka eyes, and lay very, very still. And in an itchka-pitchka minute, she was fast asleep. But she didn't sleep long when she heard that voice again. And this time the voice was not itchka or pitchka at all. And the voice said, "Give me back my bone." Ooh. The itchka-pitchka-bubba was really scared now. And in her itchkiest, pitchkiest, pitchkiest, itchkiest, itchkiest, pitchkiest little voice, she said, "Take it!" Did you jump? Works every time.
You are so bad, you itch. Yes. Yes.
Well, you
Storyteller,
gotta do it right.
Bravo.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I hope you enjoyed it.
We loved it. We're all going to be practicing. We're going to be saying itchkiest, pitchkiest 3 times fast.
I'll have to send you the manuscript, Sue. I get tongue-tied doing it.
I don't know. Some not so good words may come out instead.
Okay.
You were outstanding. Thank you, Eric. You were
My
marvelous.
pleasure, Sue. Glad to do it. Yay.
Yay. Well, our very next storyteller is Jane McDaniel, who is actually a board member and, of course, a member of our San Antonio Storytellers Association. She spends part of her time in Ireland on a beautiful little island and encourages us all to get there as soon as we can. And we will, and Jane will all want to stay at your house. Jane tells all kinds of tales. She tells mainly folk tales, but myths also, and wonderful Irish tales. Who knows what she's going to tell? I hear it's a short, shocking tale. And without further ado, here is Jane McDaniel. I think Jane might be locked. I don't see her moving at all. So what I'll do is see if her Wi-Fi works a little bit later, and we'll go to Veronica Gard. Now, Veronica, I know I'm catching you off guard and I don't see you. I know you're there, but I'm going to introduce you, Veronica, and we'll go back to Jane. That just happens. That Wi-Fi just freezes. Eric, it was your story, I think, just scared it to death. So let me tell you a little bit about Veronica. Veronica is also a San Antonio Storytellers board member. Her not being from Ireland, she's actually originally from England, and she tells beautiful folk tales. She also tells folk tales of which are from all over the world. And so without further ado, let me introduce to you all Veronica Gard.
Well, hi. Am I muted? I should be okay. Can you hear me too?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Well, it's good that my story comes next because my story has to do with a goose. And I called it The Goose That Got Loose at Christmas. And it happened in 1956 or 7 when I was about, 12-ish, that sort of age. And my parents had moved to a new house while I was at boarding school. So I didn't know the house very well, but everything had been done and the house was in very good shape. But the dining room was particularly nice with a very smooth wooden floor, golden wood. It was very, very pretty. And the kitchen, though, somehow hadn't quite got anything done to it. It was just a little galley kitchen right next to the dining room. And there was no door in between. There was just an opening from the kitchen straight into the dining room. And the kitchen was, there was a sink and there was a stove and there was a refrigerator, and, it was all one line of things, and which would have been fine, except my father had decided that this year, instead of a turkey, he'd like a goose. So my mother said, "A goose?" And he said, "Yes, let's have a change. Let's have a goose." Now, in England, that's quite normal, apparently. I know you don't eat them over here much, but over there, it's quite normal to go to the market or to the meat shop, and there would be hanging a great big old goose. So my mother had bought the goose and brought it home, and we got it all ready and put lemon on it and goodness knows what else. And she put it on the stove, not on a pan, because the goose is very fat. So you put it above the pan and you push it into the stove, and you put the pan under that so that it catches all the fat. Well, she put the goose in and nothing happened. It wouldn't fit. And so she tried it again. She sort of put it on the side. No, it wouldn't fit. And she put it on the other side. No, it wouldn't fit. So she looked at me, and I didn't realize how determined my mother could be. She said, "It'll have to go in on its bottom." I said, oh, right. So she turned it upside down, and wedged it into the stove with its head at the top. Well, there wasn't a head, the top at the top and the bottom at the bottom on the rack. And it stayed there, and the little pan went underneath to catch the fat, and it cooked, and it cooked. And it cooked and it cooked and it cooked, just like your turkeys take 2 and 3 hours to cook. So did my or her goose. And it smelled wonderful, that sort of lovely meaty smell, which I don't any longer eat meat, but there you are. Then I did, and I thought it smelled wonderful. And my father kept calling down, "How's the goose?" And she'd call back and say, "It's coming, it's coming." And eventually she decided it was cooked. So she pulled down the oven door, which was one of those that comes down, and she put on her oven gloves, and she got hold of the goose and she pulled, and nothing happened at all. So she looked at me and she took hold of that goose and she pulled, and nothing happened at all. She said, this goose is getting me very cross. So I said, well, what can we do? It's not going to come out of the oven, is it? She said, oh, yes, it is. And she put her hands in with the gloves and she pulled it out and it shot out. It shot out of the oven. It shot out of her hands. It shot out of the kitchen. It went round the table that was all set up and looking beautiful on the floor, round the bottom of the table and up the other side. It was going at such a rate, it could just go on and on. So it went round. She said, catch it, catch it. And so I started, I tried to catch it, but you can't catch a hot, greasy goose when it's whizzing around a table. And it went around again. And my father said, how's the goose? And she said, it's coming, it's coming. And it went around 3 times with me rushing after it, trying to catch this hot, greasy goose. Finally, my mother stopped all this nonsense by putting her hands down on the floor, bonk, and grabbing it. She took it off back to the kitchen, and I had to clear up all the mess on the floor because otherwise everyone was going to fall over and grease, there was grease everywhere. So I cleared it all up and cleaned it all up and got it looking pretty nice, I thought. And finally, my father said, well, come on, we're going to come down now. He and my brother were really hungry by then, of course. And so was I. And so they came down and my mother brought out the goose, absolutely immaculate. It looked perfect. And she laid it on the table and she said, this is the goose that nearly got away. And that's my story about the goose at Christmas, the loose goose. I've never cooked a goose since, I may say.
How old were you, Veronica?
I was about 12, about 11 or 12.
That is so funny. Thank you so much. You know what? I bet you there's a few folks out there that still cook a goose.
Do you think so?
I think so. Not me. I have a hard time even cooking a turkey, but I suspect there's folks out there. I'm not sure if they had that same experience. That was
it was terrifying.
all of us saw that.
I unmuted it.
Slipping everywhere. That's hilarious. Thank you. All right, Jane, I bragged about you, and I think we are ready to go with Jane McDaniel telling her short, shocking tale.
Well, I hope everybody can hear me now this time.
Yes.
This is an adaptation of a story by Judith Grohug. I have to give her the credit. It's called The Three Wishes. Nobody ever called Melinda Alice nice. She was clever. She was witty. She was beautiful for her age. I mean, she was 15, 16. Her father knew she was pretty. He thought she could do anything. And he had nothing against anything that she ever did because she did some really bad things. Her mother knew she was cruel, but her mother hoped that she would grow out of it. If you'd see her walking down the street in a crowd of her compadres from school, you think, there goes a real leader. She was the one who called the new girl who wore glasses to school when she was in high school. She called her contamination. And she said that anybody who touched her or anything that touched that girl would have to be cleaned, washed, inoculated. She was a piece of work, that girl, Melinda Alice. Her friends, so-called, she was popular, they called her Melinda Malice behind her back. But she could do no wrong in the eyes of her father. And she was clever. She was good at school. She passed all her exams. She passed all her tests. She was always there. She had a secret. She used to go to school early in the morning, always ready for whatever went down in class. One day she was going down the road and she was walking to school early because she knew she had a maths test sometime that day when she almost walked on a snail. Now, accidentally, she didn't like to kill anything. On purpose, she liked to kill things. So she raised her foot again and was about to squash that snail into oblivion when the snail, horror, spoke. And he said, "Don't kill me, I'll give you 3 wishes. Get real," said she. "No, really," said the snail. I'll give you 3 wishes if you don't squash me. And she thought, 3 wishes? Well, 3 wishes was 3 wishes. So she said, so what do you have? He said, well, 3 wishes. You could wish for anything you want 3 times. She thought immediately, I told you she was clever. She thought immediately, well, if my first wish was for 1,000 wishes, it could go on forever. But her father never would let her pierced. And immediately she thought, well, I wish I could have pierced ears. And suddenly, like that, no pain, she had 2 lovely earrings in her ears, and she felt them. She felt great. And she looked up to the sky. Wow, they wiggle. That's nice. So what else would my father never allow me to do? I'm 15. Well, I would like a big red Ferrari, all my own. And all of a sudden, there on the side, on the curb, there was a red Ferrari standing there, idling. And she walked all around it, and there it was. It was a beauty. And she leaned in because she was careful to see if her name was on insurance. And there it was. There was her license with her name on it. And there was her insurance card. But it didn't say Melinda Alice. It said Melinda Malice. And she thought, that's so-and-so, that snail, that stupid snail, he can't even spell. But the red Ferrari was gorgeous. So she jumped in and she drove off. And she drove up and down the streets thinking about, oh, this is the life. And what else could I wish for? 1,000 wishes. I could wish for, I could wish for world peace. I could wish for a cure for cancer. I could wish that everybody in the world who is homeless suddenly has a home. I could wish that nobody is ever hungry again. No. I could also wish for the people that don't like me that they be old and ugly. And she was thinking and thinking, and she forgot all about school till she drove by school and she realized, oh, got an English test and a maths test sometime today. So she drove into the parking lot and ran into school, slid. Did you hear? We have a maths test. Oh no, I didn't. That's my story. Shock on all sides.
So just the last 2 minutes, tell us what happened again at the very end, because you froze just a little bit and I missed it.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's why you all looked so shocked. Well, she drove around and around and it was lovely enjoying. I would enjoy a red Ferrari, I tell you. And she drove past the school and she was going to drive on till she realized, oh, that's my school. So she drove into the parking lot and parked the car and ran into school just in time before the bell rang, slid into her seat and sat down. And the boy who sat beside her in the next seat leaned over and said, do you know, we have a math test today. Yeah, I know, yeah, but we're having it in first period. And she said, oh, gee, and I never learned for it. Oh, gosh, I wish I was dead. Did you get it?
Got it.
Could you hear me?
Oh, yes, thank you. Yes. Oh, my goodness. Okay.
Did I freeze again?
Nope, we got it.
Thank you.
That was the worst wish you could make.
That was a hard birth.
Yep. Thank you so much, Jane. Oh my gosh. Okay.
It's terrible.
Shake it off. All right.
Kathleen, did you get it? I'll write the ending down on the chat box.
Okay. All right. We have one more story. And I believe we have plenty of time. So hopefully we'll be able to talk and share right after it. Again, I'm Sue Kuentz and I'm the MC, and just so excited that so many of you are here. According to the records down here, there's about 38 of us, probably from all over. So please write your name in the chat to everyone and just let us know where you're from. I saw someone's from California. And of course, Eric is from Portland, Oregon. And I'm from this little teeny tiny town, Bull Verde, Texas, just kind of north of San Antonio. And I think we've got some New Braunfels folks and some Helotes folks. So go ahead and write down where you're from. That way we can share everyone's names. We thank all of you for being here. I see Fran Stalling. She's all the way from Oklahoma. And let's see who else. Mark is with us. Mary Grace is with us. Looks like we have a lot of SASA folks with us, which is fantastic. Pat Schieffer is with us. She's our treasurer. Thank you. And Ted, I think you're the one that's from California. Thank you for being here. Trafine is from Denton. So wonderful to see everybody. Thank you guys so much. Okay. Lately, I've just been mesmerized by the moon outside. And just to think that we're having this Zoom, from all over the world, literally, we're all at some point looking at the same moon. I took some great pictures just with my little iPhone last night of my oak trees in the back. And that moon just made those trees just dance under the moon. I mean, it truly was a fairy moment, right out of Grimm's fairy tales. So I thought I would tell you a wonderful short folk tale that Richard Martin, storyteller extraordinaire from Germany, introduced to us through a workshop he presented to the San Antonio storytellers. And it's called Rabbit and the Moon. If you've ever walked outside in your garden or your front yard or backyard early in the morning, an hour before dawn, you'll notice that the leaves of your trees, of your plants, of the grass are wet with dew. Well, many years ago, on the Great Plain of Africa, Rabbit hopped out into the field early before the dawn and noticed that there was water on the grass. And Rabbit also wondered, where did that come from? Rabbit listened. He heard crying up there. The moon. The moon was crying. And those tears just trickled down onto the grasses that the rabbit was on. Moon, Moon, why are you crying? Moon looked down at Rabbit and said, I'm crying because I want to be like man. Why do you want to be like man? You're the moon. We dance under your light. Why do you want to be like man? I want to be like man because man never dies. What, Moon? Man never dies? Oh, man dies. Come step down, Moon, and I will show you that man dies. And Moon was helped down the steps. And as he came down, Rabbit took him to a small hut. And Rabbit asked Moon to peer into this hut, and they both did. And lying on the bed was a elderly man, a man breathing in his last breath. You could hear it deep down, guttural sounds from his throat, and then no more. This man's eyes closed. And then Rabbit looked at Moon and said, you see, man dies. You don't need to be like man. Moon looked at Rabbit and said, no, no, Rabbit, you don't understand. And with that, Moon led the way this time to another hut close by. And Moon and Rabbit looked into the window of this hut. And there they saw, laying on a bed, a young woman, and next to her was a young man. But between them was a brand new baby. You see, Rabbit? He and she are together. And together there will always be new birth. I want to be like man. There is only one moon. And with one moon, and once I'm gone, there will be no other. And with that, Moon walked back up, up into the sky. And he looked down, and the tears, oh, they trickled on down too. Down before the hour of dawn. You will see it when you walk out in your garden, your backyard, your front yard, your fields. You will see Moon's tears, for they are there. And now we know why. The story of Rabbit and Moon. Thank you all very much. All right. So at this time, you are very welcome to unmute yourselves and feel free to ask Eric or any of the storytellers tonight questions or connections that you might have made. If you should, I think you should all be in speaker mode at this time. If you're in gallery mode, actually at this point, I think it's okay to be in gallery mode, yeah. So you can unmute yourselves and you can either ask a question by raising your hand. Looks like Ed has his hand up. Ed, go ahead.
Hi, I have a question for Eric. My son lives up in Portland. I did send you an email or a message, and I'm looking for, events up there that he could go. I started taking him to events in California when he was a little kid, and he loves storytelling, but he doesn't know of anything up there. So,
Oh, there.
in the Portland area.
Yeah. Well, nothing is going on right now because everything is closed down. But there are a lot of storytelling groups have been going on for decades. There's an excellent group out in Beaverton that friends of mine belong to. Multnomah County Library would be the source. So he should check in there because they're sort of a center for all sorts of activities like that. Also, all of the county libraries in the area feature story times. So that's I would say start with the libraries, give them a call, see what's happening, community events, or just go online, Google storytelling events groups in Portland, and a whole bunch of things will come up.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Anybody
I got a
else?
question.
Jane.
How can I change the chat box from an individual person to everyone? You know how to do that, Sue.
You can click on the blue screen on the chat box, and if you click on that arrow, go all the way to the top and it says everyone in meeting. Scroll all the way to the top and it should then the blue.
Got it.
Yeah, okay.
Got it. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
Vicky Krebsbach, can you wave so people can see you? Vicky's a retired librarian like I, and Eric loves Vicky also. I just wanted to make sure that Eric
Oh,
knew that you were there.
Thank you.
I see
Delighted
you
to
there.
have heard the stories this evening and to see Eric. Wow, how special.
How come you're not on your horse?
He can't live in the house, Eric.
If he could, I bet he'd be there.
Anybody else want to say anything? I see Williams Simpson.
That's Nancy.
Oh, Nancy, hey.
Hey, I just want to go on record that people from Oklahoma love Eric Kimmel too. I have a small stack of autographed books from 1991 when he came to Stillwater, Oklahoma. And then some of us were at the NCTE conference in Portland, and you gave us a tour of Ramona Cleary's neighborhood. And it is just great to see you. I do have a little picture here. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, there it is. Yes.
Yeah.
That's me. Little
It's great
feather.
to see you.
If you're ever in Portland, if and when this virus goes away, since then we have the Ramona statues in Grant Park, and there's a statue of Ramona, Henry, and Beezus. That was a fountain. There are the pictures. There they are.
Yeah.
And during the COVID, when the COVID started, we walked in the park. It's not too far from my house, and someone had put masks on Ramona, Henry, and Ribsy. So it was good to see that they were staying safe.
I'm glad they're safe.
Hey, Sue,
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to congratulate John for his book that he's published. I think that's
Yes,
wonderful.
John presented his book towards the beginning and shared it with everyone. So
Sorry, I missed it.
we are excited for John. And John, I think, did you put in to the chat where folks can pick up your book if they're interested?
Wait a minute.
Can do that.
Yeah.
It's
now,
a Kindle
Eric,
book, and I think it's only like $2.99 this week. So I'll put the link in there right now. And just a reminder real quick, I use storytelling to make the message of being safe in construction really go to the heart of the worker, because just as these fairy tales and other folk tales move people, so do other stories. Most of them are either true or kind of smushed together from true stories. And once you affect the person, they remember and they don't take a shortcut the next time. So I have fun with that.
That's awesome. I'd like to thank every one of you here. I know you're here because you know the power of story. Whether you're part of whichever business that you're involved with, whether you're in a church, whether you're in a school, whether you're retired like me, it doesn't matter. Story is so important, especially now. And thank you all so much for being here and knowing the importance of the power of story. And with that said, we do meet the first Wednesday of every month with Zoom. And feel free, if you would like to share a story, just go to our San Antonio Storytellers webpage, just sanantoniostorytellers.com, and send us an email and let us know, and we'll get you on. We just love to have you. And it's so nice to see familiar faces, but even nicer to see folks I've never seen before. And I'd like to thank Eric and Elizabeth and Veronica and Jane. You certainly invited your friends, and that's how storytelling gets going. And if you're a librarian, thank you all so much for being here. Yay for librarians.
Hey.
Also know our stories. Yay for all the teachers. Also, thank you. And Trafine is a storytelling coach for kids. So is Marianne Blue, myself, and there's probably a handful of other folks that work with kids. Thank you all so very, very much. Eric, if it wasn't for your stories, truly, I don't know where we'd be. So thank you so
Oh,
much.
there's just thousands and thousands of wonderful books out there. But kids need librarians to show them the way because they're not going to find them on their own.
Here, here.
That's my
That's
sermon.
true.
That's why every school needs a trained professional librarian and a well-equipped, well-funded library, because that's how children learn to read. As one of my professors, Winifred Ladley, said to us years ago, children don't learn to read to pass tests. They learn to read books.
Yes. And you need a a lot of great 398.2 books. Those folk tales and fairy tales are so fabulous.
That's forever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, happy Hanukkah,
So true.
Merry Christmas,
Merry Christmas.
best
Merry
winter
Christmas.
times for y'all, and hopefully we'll see you in January.
Kwanzaa.
Please come back and visit us. You don't need an invitation. Just look on our website. We'd love to see your beautiful faces. Thank you all so much for tonight. Eric, you've made it so special. Elizabeth,
Bye,
you made
Sue.
it
Awesome.
Bye, Vicki. Bye, everybody.